So welcome.
Thank you,
Um,
Avi.
you're welcome. And whoever has anything to offer, share, ask, whatever, this is the time. If you're, Kamala, have you used Zoom before?
Yeah, I'm doing a lot of Zoom
Yeah,
since I'm close at home and
right,
not being able to work.
right.
So I'm
So
doing.
yeah, so no need to introduce any features. There's nothing spectacular. So all right. So anybody with questions, answers, comments, suggestions, whatever.
I want to say something that came up to me this morning, and I like to. So, are we all acupuncturists in this group?
Yes,
We are.
yes.
I had a question. Uh, we go between fear and we need to remind ourselves, okay, I'm alive, I'm doing okay, I have home, I have a roof, and I'm okay. And again comes the fear. And again, pinch yourself and move on. And one of the things that as I'm listening to the Zoom, it's a lot of push up. And I need to remember that these companies who are having some benefit from it, the push up is to do a lot of long distance healing with your clients, which means teach them to press here and teach them to press there and all of these issues. And of course, one of the things is this is really the media that I need to start learning. And it's Kiko was being offered, Kiko gives once a year a July seminar in Baltimore. And she was being offered to give her seminar this way. And she said, I don't want to go into this technology. Leave me alone. When time comes, we will meet in Baltimore again. So she canceled her seminar. But the point is, how people are feeling about this push up to do all this zooming and long distance healing or doing this, because I found it to be, it's more distancing ourselves emotionally, because the work we do, in the end of the day, we touch people, especially the type of acupuncture that we do. We don't just go and do spleen 6 and we are out the room. We keep to go to the abdomen and we keep checking things and we check the pulse. This is the true medicine that we are doing. So just I feel like how I'm just get anxious back and forth about this issue, how people are feeling about it. Or they're saying the time will come, we go back and everything will be fine. So just a question, that's it, a thought.
Any comments from anyone? Well, I can tell you what I feel about it. So okay, so I think there's a number of issues going on here. The first issue is that if you're an acupuncturist versus you are an acupuncturist who does herbs, which is different. So not everybody does herbs. So if you do herbs, it's a lot easier to do some sort of online medicine, telemedicine. Now, I think, the thing, specifically with Kiko, because I have a class coming up in Montreal, and what I suggested to them is, let's do one day of just theory, and I can sit at home and we'll do this for free. So people can feel like they're doing something. But the class itself, because both Kiko and I teach by actual treating, and there is no way I can treat people at the end of May. There's no way I'm leaving the country at the end of May because I don't know if they'll let me back in. So, I think it's very complicated. So I think that to accept, yes, what we do is, just like the massage therapist, they don't have jobs right now. We don't have jobs right now. There's lots of people without jobs. So then the question is, do you want to, as a person of a certain age, let's say, to become a telemedicine professional, which there will be people who will be doing this, that will be their form of making a living in the future. I am willing to bet that there will be, in 3 or 4 years, there will be a whole bunch of Oriental medicine practitioners who basically sit at home, just like psychotherapists, and do consultations at home. Um, and that's okay. You know, it's not something I was trained with. It's not something I'm comfortable with. Um, and then I think it's a very individual thing to decide what and when do I want to jump onto the new wave of the future. Listen, in the future, in 100 years, or in 50 years, or even only 25, I don't think this profession will exist. You know, people keep talking about, oh, the dry needling, the physical therapist is stealing, blah, 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 blah. Listen, at a certain point, chances are acupuncture will not exist as a separate profession. We will be integrated. Now, so will other things disappear. You know, we're not, even the MDs will sort of get integrated. Everything will, because medicine will change, just like medicine of 200 years ago is not the medicine that we do today. So we will integrate. There will be some people who will keep as very traditionalist and say, I am doing Chinese. I don't do this modern form of medicine. I do traditional. And yes, there will be people like that. But as a whole, and the licensing in all likelihood will no longer be what we know now. So we each have to choose what, what I do is, yes, the financial issues obviously come up. Nobody's going to deny it. Very few of us can afford to give away our services or do it for whatever amount. You know, that we are all running a business on some level. And at the same time, you have to also recognize you can run any other kind of business should you choose. So now it may not be easy, but you could choose that. So if you're not comfortable with telemedicine, you won't do it. I think that the push for telemedicine in the acupuncture world is really a way. I went on a NCCAOM town hall, which I
Mhm.
thought was absurd. It
I
was,
know, I agree.
it was, and actually, I expressed that to someone who's in the NCCAOM, and they also agreed. I think the problem is they're still searching to figure out how to how to operate within this phenomenon, and then to figure out how to what are the tools that are available. And a thing that none of us we can't really know yet is that we're very early on in this phenomenon. I mean, we know that at the very minimum this is going to take 18 months, okay, until there's a vaccine. Okay, so now it doesn't mean we'll be locked in our houses for 18 months, but so when we're looking historically, and we're looking at, they keep calling it a novel virus, okay, which means that we are really looking at something that's new. It's a new cultural phenomenon, and everybody wants to like understand it now. And all these arguments, when do we open the country? Well, we don't know, and we might as well just get used to. We just don't know. How do we sit with don't know? So to the answer of like, should we go telemedicine, not go? I think just sit with it. One day, when I closed my clinic, it was a huge struggle. I mean, it was a 2-hour struggle. It was a huge struggle nonetheless, because I kept thinking, I'm supposed to be a healthcare provider. Look at me, I'm running away, blah, blah, blah. I should be in the front lines. I should, all sorts of stuff like that. And then I said to myself, and then I heard that California is about to close. It wasn't clear if acupuncturists were considered healthcare providers. No, it doesn't matter. But it gave me the courage to say, you know what? I think the correct thing ethically is not to let people come, not to make them into vectors. No, it may not be the right decision for everyone. So I just sat with the options, and I just sat with, is this something I want to do, I don't want to do? And eventually came clarity. I don't think we can have clarity around who we are as a profession in this disease. It's just like all the people who want to come and, they say, look at these formulas from the Shanghai Lun and use this and use this and use this. And I'm like going, excuse me, none of you have any clinical experience yet. You know, I mean, I'm okay. We should try things from the past. Absolutely. We should argue about how to, but to acknowledge that we're not going to know in 5 years, we'll be able to write the book and give people advice and say, right now, let's just sit. And especially me, I'm not treating anybody. I don't know what COVID looks like. I mean, I hear it theoretically, but I don't know anything about it. So I think to just accept that this is really a transition, and this is a transition that may be a transition for humanity as a whole. I don't know, as a culture, as a global, as a planet. I don't know. I can't make assumptions either way. And to just accept that and to just sit with that and look, we've got time. We've got nothing but time right now. And I think to worry about these things is look, we by nature worry, but can I just accept that worry is just another thought that comes in and it's not helpful, and I could do other things, and to recognize I will worry, and I can, my mind can be occupied by all these questions and worrying, and my mind can let go and be and do other things as well. It doesn't mean I shouldn't, I can't, I won't worry, but it just means I can do more. That'll be my, I don't know, because I don't know if anybody here does telemedicine. I thought it was a little bit, yeah, I think there's a big push for doing telemedicine. I think that, to prescribe herbs and stuff, in a relatively quick manner. And again, can you really charge a full session by prescribing herbs because you're really not taking pulse? You might be able to see a tongue with whatever lighting they provide you, but you're not seeing the person fully. And, so that's okay. You do what we can. But it's not going to replace what we do currently. In the future, it might. I mean, Google will come up with a little acupuncture robot, and you tell her, do Japanese style. No, do TCM, do Tan. you know.
Yeah.
So that's my take on it. And
Just to reinforce something about the herbs that you said, I would love to send you a YouTube that I think you all will enjoy it, or I will send it to Avi. That was a physician, ER physician in New York, that is working the last 10 days in the ER, and he put a YouTube out because he said, I like you to spread the word. So I'm thinking how to spread the word after
is
I
this
listen.
David Price?
No, it's a young physician who is working at the ER, and he say it's so not pneumonia, big time. And when we are learning from the Dr. Chen or all these people who were sending information about like Mayway and Natura, they are trying to say that this is actually a type of pneumonia and this is the herb. So first, first, first reason, second reason, third reason, listen to the symptoms, and this is how you describe Guizi, or you do Mahuan Tang, or Guizi Mahuan Tang, or whatever, all these names of the formulas. And he said it's actually not a pneumonia at all. It's just not. And I like to send it to you guys and spread the word that he's seeing it much more as an altitude issue. Like when you go and you're trying now to climb the Himalaya, good luck. You cannot do it. Your lungs muscles are not trained to climb the Himalaya. So if people are looking at, okay, clear heat, clear dampness, clear phlegm, they can help maybe the client, but no, for sure, because this is the diagnosis is a little bit different. So just for you to know that there's some truth to what you're saying.
Thank you. Yeah, I have seen a lot of talk about rhodiola. In other words, how do we give extra oxygenation to people in advance? I think that this is the problem, is that when people are in ICU, well, first of all, we cannot give them herbs. And the other thing that's interesting is, of course, Mawan in the United States, at least, officially does not exist. So that's another kind of issue. But Anne-Marie, I'm going to unmute you. And hello, welcome.
Hello, and my video isn't working today. My
Oh,
computer is having issues, but I'm here.
thank you. So feel free to jump in at any time. You can mute yourself if you like. You don't have to. Um, I'm just there's no need to be muted. That's all I'm saying.
Oh yeah. I just jumped in. It's the first time I've joined you guys. I'd heard about you this week, and being in isolation is kind of challenging. Uh, I'm a fairly new practitioner. I've been practicing for just a little over a year.
Mhm. Oh, welcome.
Acupuncture only, no herbs.
Okay,
Uh,
where are you located?
Between Worcester and Boston. I'm in
Oh,
Maynard, Massachusetts.
okay. You're
Little,
close to me.
yeah, yeah. Um,
Wonderful.
and most of my practice involves home visits with,
Oh, okay.
and most of my patients are very fragile.
Hmm.
Uh, they can't get out.
Oh,
Um, so I self-isolated after March 13th because I was in a couple of kind of sketchy situations, seeing new patients that day, and then at the end of the 2 weeks, it was clear that acupuncture around my employer basically shut down. Um, so
mm,
so I've been home.
yeah. Well, like the rest of us.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Uh,
well, welcome.
Thank you.
Anyone else with any questions, comments?
May I share something, Avi?
Yes, I love the hair. I don't
Yeah.
think it's too short. No, it's very cool.
Okay, thank you.
It's also a different color, but I don't. That might be the lighting. It
Yeah,
looks
that's
darker.
lighting.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. But next project is to try to dye my hair. We'll see.
Oh, okay. And where's
Uh,
Puppy?
Puppy ate his breakfast and now he's in bed with Papa. Yeah.
Okay.
But I really appreciate what Carmela shared about the herbs. Um, Actually, my partner wants me to go down. He wants to sleep, sorry. Right now I'm doing telehealth with herbs, but no means that like my practice is very small. Not that I became expert in telehealth, that all of my patient wants to see me through the, just for the herbs. I love herbs. Like for acupuncture, Kiko style, what Avi is doing, this is my passion. And for herbs, I really love classical Chinese herbalism, but most of it based on Shan Han Nun. And since this started, I was like, we will have to treat this at some point. And I would like to really know what's going on, not just from the theory, but people's doctors' experiences from China. So like Dr. Chen, he came kind of quite at the beginning, and I look at the formulas and then it didn't seem right to me. And I don't practice TCM approach anyway. All these bitter cold herbs, wind heat, what you were describing. And then like Avi, it's really nice. There are a couple of free things are happening every week. Like healthy seminars are doing 1 hour webinar, free webinars every Monday and Friday mornings. And I had this interesting
Say the name again.
healthy seminars. If you go to their website, I can also I can send the link to Avi and maybe he can share.
You say
Hel-
the word again.
Healthy
Yes.
seminars.
Healthy seminar with Lauren.
Yeah. Have
Lauren
you?
Brown.
Yes, Sharon Weizenbaum.
Yes,
And
yes, yes, yes. I'm listening to them. Yes.
and then I would recommend Heiner Fraff,
Mhm.
his website, because he's getting information from Dr. Li Huang, and he's actually treating people in Wuhan. So it's not like this, very well-known teachers are just like contemplating about this would be the good way to treat. They are actually treating people. I really appreciated Dr. Liu's report, because there was one formula that we usually use for lung abscesses, like when there's thick phlegm coming, etc. And then he was saying that actually instead of mashing shigantang, which most of the other teachers are saying that's the great formula to use, he's saying I actually use this formula. And then I'm like, oh, interesting, because we don't usually use that formula. And then he explains, it's like, because I'm in the hospital, I can have access to a CT scan of the lung. When you see the CT scan, it's actually, even though the patient doesn't have the symptom like, severe thick phlegm and yellow sputum, etc., it's like, this is where it's going, or it's already there. That's why we use this. I thought I really appreciated that, because I am like gathering everything. I had a list of the teachers who are talking about it and how we can treat it. And I thought that was really helpful, because I also see some teachers, so this, this fits in this pattern, this Shanhanlun pattern, this formula, but it's like, did you actually see patients? And, seeing like Suzanne Rabideau, she's in China and she's also reporting. But I don't think she's actually treating patients at the hospitals. So yeah, I see your dilemma, and I'm not treating like anyway COVID patients. I had a couple of patients with similar symptoms, but they didn't even get tested. So, and like what Avi was saying, I don't charge my full price. I almost see this like a community service, very reduced rate, and I'm sending them herbs, or I'm actually literally driving, because I have very vulnerable patients to cancer, HIV, etc. So I make the formula. I don't even charge it that much. I drive, they live close by, and I leave them on the porch. That's kind of what I'm doing now. I wanted to share the herbal part.
Thank you. I had a discussion with someone and who's like trying to kind of create a theory on this disease. And so I jokingly said to her, "Oh, so we're writing the Shan Kovin Dun." So because it's like, yeah, Shan Hanlun's been around for 2,000 years, and maybe it fits, but maybe Shan Hanlun doesn't fit. We don't know yet, and it's too early to say. So maybe there will be a Shan Covid Lun. It's like, we just don't know. And so I think to just keep an open mind, and also to keep an open mind that people that what works in China does not necessarily will work elsewhere. To keep in mind that the big center right now is in the US. It's no longer, well, as far as we know, because we don't know, if nobody knows the numbers of any place. But it certainly looks like the US is the hot spot. Italy, Spain, the US, and the Netherlands, Belgium also have huge numbers in comparison to numbers of people. We just don't know, and we just have to have a lot of patience around figuring out. And when someone says, "Look, use these herbs," I'm treating in a hospital and I can do CAT scans. Well, but I'm treating people in a different, if I'm treating people, they're not in the hospital. Our conditions are very different than China. So again, we may need to look at different ways of doing things, simply because each culture is different. And I think that's something that when we do get back to practice in a more real manner, we may have to test all these things and find out. But I think that, yes, there's a lot of things to be learned from the past. And we have to have a lot of courage to let go of, to change the past and come up. So, for example, I noticed that Yu Xing Zhao, Hutunya, is not used a lot. And and I don't know why, because it's really an excellent herb for what it, theoretically speaking, for what this should be. So it's just really hard to know until we try. And how many of us really see enough patients to be able to say, okay, I use this formula with Yu Xing Zhao, and then I use this on 50 patients, and I use this formula on 50 patients without the Yu Xing Zhao, exactly same formula, and here's the statistics. None of us have this kind of capacity. That's just not what we do. We're not, and I don't know what John Chen does clinically speaking, but I highly doubt that he sees that many people to be able to do this. Now, he sees more people. No, what he does have is he has a company. So he gets reports from people who buy his herbs. Okay? So in that sense, someone like John Shen has this capacity, but then you're talking about third-hand reports. You're not sure. I mean, look, we all have this tendency to say, my patient's doing great. If you call Evergreen and they say, by the way, how did that formula do for your patients? I mean, what are you going to say? No, it really sucked. I mean, you're going to say, oh yeah, that's great. There's always a little bit of a tendency for that. So our studies are not really controlled. No, and I don't mean by scientific control, but they're not emotionally controlled. So it's hard, so we just experiment, and we've always done this. We've always prescribed, whether it's herbs or acupuncture, large extent, very subjectively. I mean, look, there are people who put the herbs, people who don't use freeze-dried at least, they put the herbs on a plate and they say there's a little red missing, and then they'll throw away because they want more red or something. No, I mean, that's not an unusual phenomenon for people to do that. So there's always been subjectivity. And I think that's okay. And the reality is that none of us are decocting or pressure cooking herbs for people in hospitals. That's not the way our medical system works. It may be not a good thing that it doesn't work that way, but it's the reality of how we work. So.
I'd like to suggest something else to see if anyone in the group is doing it or knows anything about it. One of the things that I did for my clients, and I really see a lot of clients, I don't know, don't even want to say because people will ask me, so how do you do it? But say 30 clients a day. So for me not to work, it's just, you can imagine it was hard time to slow down, but I'm slowing and I'm thinking. One of the things that I'm a big believer, and this is one of the things that I did immediately, I send the YouTube to my clients. And one of the other suffering right now is an allergy. So I did do telemedicine Thursday last week with a child that was actually having shortness of breath. And every time she went out, so it was very clear that is an allergy. I took an ice intake. The mother was really happy to pay me as much as I want. And I put her on a formula, which is soon I need to check in and see how she's doing. But my YouTube was why everybody is saying it's no medicine. Here is medicine. And I put on my table beets and dandelion and lemon and ginger and the tradition, something classical tradition teas that have dandelion and red clover. And red clover is very good for viruses. Anyone who is using Epstein-Barr issues, they're putting them on red clover. So basically, is anyone knows about good courses on nutrition is health? Because one of the challenges is when we cannot treat COVID because we really don't understand COVID. Because if I get this YouTube and says to me, listen, this is not pneumonia, this is something else, I don't know what it is, let's open the mind. So, but it's the one thing we can do prevention, and we can ask our clients to join us to Zoom and teach nutrition. Anyone knows a good practitioner? I actually reached out to this man. This is a book that I learned at school 25 years ago. I'm practicing over 25 years now. I'm sure that a lot of you know this book, and if don't, put it on your shelf. You can buy a second edition, a third edition, wonderful book. And he basically does truly a wonderful differentiation for each of the food and what is lung food, what is kidney food. I love this book. But I want to expand my knowledge in nutrition and say, this is another way of reaching out. Not just for weight loss, because we have a very big competitive online, Noon and Moon or whatever they call them. I'm sure that all of you, if you listen to public radio, they do a lot of publication, which they are not doing it now. It's called Noon. Does anyone knows about it? Okay, it's weight loss and it's the psychology of weight loss. I found in the end people gain weight and lose the weight. Is the only thing we can do is actually teach them why they need to eat something, and then they can lose weight because it's just happened because you eat the right food. does anyone knows a good seminar? I
I
said,
think your cat does.
what?
Do you have a cat? Do you have a cat?
I have my grandkids in here, and this is what is slowing my brain because I run always on gear 6, and I needed to go low, and this was driving me nuts. This is a 2 years old that is demanding something, and nobody's really giving her exactly what she wants the minute she wants.
I just thought that maybe she has an answer.
Oh my God. No, she's just screaming. And I'm closing my room. So, do you know Avi, anyone?
I don't. Well, what I can say is that, you know, I think Paul Pritchard, many people really like Paul Pritchard. If you've ever been to Jeffrey Ewan seminars, Jeffrey does a lot of those things, you know, a lot of nutritional stuff. I think, and you know, there obviously, you know, from a Chinese perspective, I don't know how many other people do this. There are obviously lots of options. There are a lot of acupuncturists who love functional medicine, which is not exactly nutrition. Yeah.
I did a lot of functional. It's just take rhodiola and take B12 and folic
Yeah.
acid.
No, I
So,
mean, you know, I'm just saying that it will tend to be around those. I think that food, you know, I think just, again, experiment.
no, I
You know,
just want
I
to.
mean, you have, I mean, no, seriously, I mean, you know, you have pretty much, you're using Paul Pritchard, which is pretty much, you know, at least it's one of the Bibles. So maybe it's not the Bible, but it's certainly one of the so-called classics. And just keep experimenting and keep trying. And you know, so here is a great way. I mean, if you know, if you're seeing 30 people a day, I don't know if you work 5 days a week, I hope not, but you know, you're seeing, no, so you're seeing a large number. Okay, that's,
four,
let's, yeah.
4 days a week.
So listen, so clearly there are enough people out there who need, even if they don't need acupuncture and they don't need herbs, they just need some support. They just need 15 minutes to talk to someone who will give them some reassurance of whether it's true or not. It doesn't matter. They need it. And
Okay.
part of that reassurance can be, and by the way, why don't you know, get rid of the muffins or whatever. And, you know, you do what you, I think to make the path as we step on it, and you know, to clear the path as we're about to walk is really what's called for now. We're not, just like we all want to know what will happen in 2 years. How will we reopen? Is it correct to do social isolation, or should we do other options? Blah blah. Is Sweden the best model? You know, all these arguments. And in the same way, we're trying to look at the past. We want clarity. There is no clarity. You know, and to how do I operate as a practitioner with not being able to be 100% sure that this is, you know, it's not like this teacher with this, you know, with this qualifications has said to do it, therefore it must work. No one has this right now, but we do know of, you know, and we come from different schools of thought perhaps about what is a good diet that will support you, you know. So one doesn't need a huge amount, you know, and it's amazing. Look, every time a patient comes in and I say, so tell me about your diet, and what they, you know, because I don't have a form that, you know, maybe I should have a form that just tells them to list everything they eat in a day. You know, that might be very useful. But, you know, usually what most people say, oh, I eat very well. You know, and occasionally a person will say, oh, no, I eat junk. But, you know, it goes one way or the other. And then I say, okay, well, let's hear about what you eat very well. Let's start with you get up in the morning and and then it turns out a whole bunch of things that number one, they never counted. Number two, things that they did count, but they didn't realize were bad for them. It's just the nature of it. So part of what we do is to help them flush out. Now, I'm one of those people who thinks that sugar and carbs are not so good for you. On the other hand, I'm vegetarian, so it's not like I'm one of those great, you know, carnivore diets. You know, I'm not a paleo person either. So, you know, everybody has, as you know, their own scheme in which they put things. So you experiment with that, but sometimes just having the discussion at this point to accept that the service I'm doing is just having a discussion with people. And I may not have the right answers, but at least I'm giving them some ideas. So for example, I put up this rather lengthy, guidelines for, for self-care during sheltering in place on my website. And I can't tell you how many people have called or emailed and said, oh, wow, this is so wonderful. I'm so glad you did it. And I don't think that the advice there is so unique or so amazing, but it gives people a focal point. Just like you're saying, I need something else. I'm used to working 4 days a week, nonstop. And suddenly, so we can say, well, Camilla, this is really good for you not to work so much. But yeah, but it's a huge adjustment. Okay. So
no, it's not good for me. I love doing it. I'm doing
yes,
it 24
I understand.
hours. I'm fine.
Absolutely. So therefore, so how many other people are out there? Sort of, they need something to latch onto, and maybe that's all we can help with. Maybe we don't have the right herb. Maybe Wong Chin is not the best herb right now. We don't know. Maybe Scutellaria is not the panacea. But being there for each other, whether through Zoom or whether in whatever manner, or the phone or whatever, is good enough. It has to be. And to just remember that, people are dying right now without anybody around them, except people in masks.
Yeah.
And their families are dealing with that, of this incredible phenomenon that we've really, I don't think in the history, well, maybe in the Black Plague it was like that, I don't know. But, this incredible isolation, not just of sheltering in place, but for the basic human phenomenon is no longer being answered. So here we have a capacity, so it requires a change. So you mentioned Kiko, isn't coming to Baltimore. Kiko is probably not the kind of person that would be good at doing a Zoom conference with a patient and like offering but some of us are. So, and some of us can develop that skill. So good. So use it. And if you didn't give them the right herbs or the best nutrition, or you give them the best nutrition and they choose to do mac and cheese because it's cheap and easy to get, that's fine. I do what I can, because clarity is not an option right now. And I think to wrap my head around that clarity is just not an option. That's my mantra right now. So I don't know if that helps. But.
Can I just say, Camilla, I did a course a number of years ago with an online course with, it's called Ruby, Rouxbe.
My email is carmelamager@gmail. Anyone in the group can send me information. I'll thank you a lot. And if you want information back, or you want to see my YouTube, I would love to send it to you. Maybe it will give you some inspiration how you can reach your client. This was my first thing. And this week I'm like gathering my thoughts. So carmelamager@gmail. Thank you. Now, yes.
She has to know how to spell it, but I can email it to her. But go ahead, Mary Jo. Go ahead. So it's Rubix, Rubix.
R-O-U-X.
R-O.
Sorry.
R-O.
R-O-U-X.
R-O-U-X. Okay.
R-O-U-X.
B-E. B-E. R-O-U-X-B-E. Ruxbe.
Ruxbe?
No, it's pronounced Ruby.
Ruby.
But it's spelled R-O-U-X-B-E.
Okay.
The non-Irish spell it, say it differently.
Actually, I think it might have been, I don't know if it was Canadian people that might have set up the site. I'm not 100% sure about that, but it's US, mainly people from the US and maybe Canada. But it's a general plant. Well, they do have a number of courses. I did a plant-based course, Now they also had like a little miniature of the plant-based course with an emphasis on health, but it was kind of very general. You know, kind of looked at, you know, cardiovascular, digestive, diabetes, you know, the regular type of ailments. But it's a really good course, and like there's lots of information. It's just purely online, and they have support during the course. You know, they have weekly discussions that you log in and ask questions.
Thank
So
you.
I found them really good, and I learned a lot in that course, that like the nutritional benefits of different foods, and
Wow.
but it wouldn't be so medically oriented, let's say, bar this little mini one that was called Culinary RX.
Culinary?
RX. They had a number of doctors specializing in their different fields, and they had lots of sessions online that you could go in and ask questions or whatever. But that was like a subset of the main plant-based course.
Great, thank you, thank you. This is how I'm seeing my telemedicine going.
Oh, fair enough. You will have a little cooking thing.
I did a lot of cooking classes. I took people to kitchens, 15
Oh,
people,
cool.
and I did for cancer groups. And really, I did it, most of them for very, very little money, just for buying the shopping stuff. And people loved it. So it's, and this is my heart. I believe that food is the healing. And by the way, Paul doesn't teach anymore. I reached him 5 years ago. I begged him if he can do a seminar here in North Carolina, and he said, I don't work anymore. So he doesn't exist as a teacher. So Paul is not there.
Okay.
Avi, may I ask you something?
Yes.
It's really nice to hear that. I mean, not that everybody should be, but I am mostly 99% eating plant-based, not due to a religious belief or spiritual. And I don't really like when people talk about you should do keto. You know, I actually like to experiment. I did ketogenic diet just because I wanted to see the magic for 6 months. And I'm like, okay, I was healthy and I'm still healthy, and I didn't feel that amazing brain power. Anyway, so, and there are some people, you know, definitely things that we should eat meat. Like when you talk with your patients, how do you, first of all, do you tell them that you don't eat meat? And if they do, how do you address their diet in a way that doesn't come across like, you know, the best, or they should be vegetarian or not? Because I know there are some practitioners in Berkeley area, it's almost like cult-like, you know, it's like you have to be a plant-based person, or yeah. So I would appreciate if you can share with me what you share with your patients.
Okay. So I do tell people that I'm an ethical vegetarian. I'm not a vegetarian for health reasons, although I believe it's healthier, but I can't say because I've been vegetarian since I was 12, and that's 50 years now. So, you know, I don't have any experience to compare, you know, meat and not. It's not like I went into meat, out of meat, or whatever. I really don't have the experience because it's been so long. So I explained to them that I can't pass judgment or give them advice on meat because I don't have a personal experience. That I do have, and you know, if you go to, you know, there are people who will have like incredibly intricate analysis of different meats based on Chinese medicine, that this is cooler and this is blah blah and this is blah blah and this is spicy and, you know, I don't know what, you know, whatever. And you should eat lamb for nourishing the spleen, and you should eat cow for nourishing the lungs. I'm making shit up, you know. It's I know it's not like that, but so I sit with people. I basically, I think with so that's one thing that I do tell them. I am really aware that most Chinese practitioners are very big into the meat business, you know, bone broth, blah 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 blah, and it's like, okay, you know, everyone has an opinion and they're allowed to have have an opinion. I don't have to agree or disagree. It just, there are many ways to do things. It isn't my favorite necessarily, but it is how it is. And then what I try and do is I try and work with just general, first work with principles. So the principle is that most people in our culture, at least, eat way too much wheat, probably way too much corn, way too much processed foods. Okay, so I think there's a huge, and there's things that they don't even see in their diets. So they think that, what they eat, they forget that this is what they eat, and what happened to all the sodas. Okay, so the Chinese are very good saying no ice drinks, but what happens if your Coke is not, if your Coke or Pepsi or whatever is not super cold, the patient doesn't even think about it. It just, and the amount of coffee that some people drink, for example. I mean, 1 cup, fine, but when patient comes and they say they drink 8 cups of coffee, something is not exactly fabulous there, because, and very few people just have coffee. And if they did, if they have just coffee and don't eat, then it suggests something also. But most people have coffee with something, So it's with breakfast, and then it's with the muffin, and then it's with the blah blah, and then it's with the blah blah, and then it's with the blah, it all adds up. So I think, but learning to listen, and so what I try and do when I ask them about diet, I really sit and listen. Okay, and because I'm lucky because I don't see 30 patients a day, so I have a little bit more time, so I can really sit and listen, and I let them finish I say, tell me what you eat in a day, and sometimes I'll take notes while because sometimes it's hard to remember, and then I don't, it's not so much the general advice as much as, okay, well, when you have this. See if you can eliminate that. See if you can put in more dark leafy greens in your diet. So there doesn't have to be one answer for everyone. There doesn't have to be a unified theory for nutrition. Paul Pritchard definitely has a system, so to speak. Jeffrey definitely has a system, but one can do it without that. There's still things. So, let the client guide you rather than a dogma. One of the things that was very useful for me, and not to promote any books or anything, but there's a book by, that's actually a weight loss book. It's called Dr. Abravanel's, maybe weight loss or something, body types, that's what it's called. It's from the 70s. But what's really cool about this book, because I don't need to lose any weight. I don't need to read this book. But what he does is he divides, he said people would come to him, he's an MD, and they would come and they say, I want to lose weight. And they say, how come my neighbor eats ice cream and loses weight, and if I have a teeny bit of ice cream, I don't lose weight? And he realized that what happens is that different body metabolisms do different things, that there's no one way to lose weight. There's no one way to be healthy either. So, and he has 3 main types, and for women he has a 3rd type. So he has a thyroid type, I believe it's an adrenal type, a gonad type, hormonal type, if I remember correctly. And he has this questionnaire, and it's very sort of like like for one of those magazines sort of thing. You answer the questionnaire and you decide which type you are, and then he gives you advice for what the diet is, what herbs you should take, blah blah. He types you, puts you in a. But the thing that's revolutionary about it, this is in the 70s, is that instead of saying count your calories, or don't eat carbs and just eat cottage cheese, or don't do this, or don't do, some of us were not born in the 70s, granted, but some of us remember these diets. So, he made it a little bit more individual. So I think that just listening to what people say and ignore what you do in your home, because none of us are perfect. It's not like you have to show them perfection. You're just a bouncing board. You're listening and you're saying, oh, this is really, maybe you're doing too much of this. maybe you could introduce more this, that, and the other. So it doesn't have to be you must have so many omega-3s, which really is not my expertise at all. Plus I have a patient who actually works for Brigham's Women, and she said her job is to basically eliminate all the fish in the world, because her lab is the one that's apparently started this whole omega fad, and she said, there's not going to be any fish, by the time we're all finished taking all our omegas, So to recognize that nutrition has lots of fashions also. So what the advice I give today may be totally, in 5 years, they'll say that was crap. That wasn't really true. But there is still some truth in it. So it's like, yeah, so is it true that 30 years ago we were promoting low fat and now we're promoting, much more fat than we ever did? Yeah, and if people changed in their attitude, are they right or wrong? I don't know. But I mean, look at what we called fat 30, 40 years ago, which basically, I mean, you were talking about the McDonald's fat, and now we're talking about avocado fat. I mean, I think there's a big difference. You can't compare coconuts and avocados with McDonald's. It's apples and oranges sort of thing. It doesn't make sense. To say, well, the advice was wrong and it was the sugar companies that were saying low fat, but yes, eat sugar. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. But just to recognize, all you're doing is you're offering a diet is always an experiment in a patient. It's never an absolute truth. It's the patient that's going to tell you whether the diet was working, but encourage them to do it for at least 3 weeks. Because at the beginning, it may not, they may not feel like super light and super fabulous, et cetera, the first week. In fact, about once or twice a year, I do the standard process, whatever they're called, cleansing program, whatever. It's just an excuse for me to basically, not do any sugars, not do any grains. So they have like this protein powder and they have some herbs. The first week is more of a liver cleanse. The next 2 weeks is more of a liver build. And usually the first week I feel horrible. Okay, I mean, absolutely horrible. And the only time I did not feel horrible is when I did that program after a week of fasting. So that actually worked well. But, so I think just, keto is not for everyone, So it's something to suggest to people. If you want to try keto, try it for 3-4 weeks, see what you think, and give the patient the power. Instead of you being the deciding factor, tell them, you decide. You're intelligent, and if you're not intelligent, I'm here to give you some intelligence. That's okay. We'll cooperate. A little bit of my IQ, a little bit of your IQ, your experience. Together, we'll reach a decision. But not to assume that there's a perfect diet for anyone or for any condition. There's guidelines. That's all. So that's what I do. I'm very clear. I cannot advise you about meat. The only advice I will give you is don't do preserved meats if at all possible. Because that, do you really want all those nitrates in your body? That I think is very clear to me. But to tell them, for your condition, better you eat the white part of the chicken or the brown part of the whatever, the pig or whatever. I can't. I don't have the knowledge. I mean, I'm not even interested in acquiring it theoretically. Because I don't want to deal with it. So I don't know if that's helpful. So, anyone else?
Can I say something about this diet issue?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I see 30 people, but I do give them individual medicine still, even it sounds like, how do you do this? One of the things that I do on the first visit when I see a client, and I honestly don't go there yet. Because first of all, I really want to understand their way of thinking before I suggest you need to do keto, you need to do this, you need to do that. I don't go there and I explain to them, that I just let them write few words and I wait. And I wait to see what is really their commitment to themselves. If they came from ankle pain and they want me in 5 times to get them ready with the ankle pain and move on in life, and they don't ask me for more than that, then I don't do it. If comes someone with allergy, or someone comes with weight loss, or something really endocrine system issue, then I ask them, do you know how important the diet is? And they say, yes, but I don't know what to do about it. And I say, you know, maybe I can help you. All you need to do is write a couple of days of the way you eat and where do you eat. And the reason was, a couple of years ago, I had a client that she said, but I eat very, very little and I'm not losing weight. And with I was kind of baffled and I didn't know how to answer yet. And then I said to her the next time she came, I said, just can you tell me a little bit more, where do you eat? Oh, she said, I need to go 3 times a day to restaurants because whatever I do, I need to meet clients at the restaurant. Here it is. No matter what she's doing, she's eating the restaurant to make your food much more palatable and craving for it needs to be much more sugar or fat or things that are much more playing on your palate to be excited to eat it. It's like I open a chips, box of chips. You know what? It's very hard for me to stop. It's something in the mixed taste that makes me want just one more, just one more. So what I do, I said, just tell me a little bit as the day goes, just tell me what do you eat? And what is very interesting is the stop and thinking and writing down what they eat is already forcing them to change. They said, oh, it was too much coffee. I reduced it. Was, you know, I was really realizing that I drink too much soft drinks. Okay, I took them out. Great. And all I need to do is just to say, great. Was wonderful. And then I did do a lot of the blood test, which a blood type, which is very interesting coming news that people with blood type A, maybe, you know, it's just in a curve of learning, maybe are much more susceptible to COVID, or if they get it, they are much more clear, they can get sicker than others. Not clear, but is one scientist through this idea. I'm sure that some of you heard about it. So then I said, do you know your blood type? And they can say to me A. From the book, it says it's vegetarian, much more vegetarian. So I start to modify things and check their palates. What do they crave? And if it sounds right, kind of like I said, just listen. Listen, how do you feel after you finish to eat? Do you feel bloated? Do you feel weak? Do you feel tired? What is that you feel after eating? Oh, this and this and this. Oh, great. And then I go into Chinese medicine theory. Okay, maybe too much sugar, spleen weakness. I'm just gathering information. By the 5th week that I see them on a weekly basis, they already changed so much and they did so much in their own. Now I can step in and refine a little bit. And I never go, this is great, it's exactly what they, obviously, is not, it's not a Torah from the Bible that came from Sinai. We all are adjusting based on our metabolism or whatever it is. So this, I think, worked for me. I'm not sure it's great, but it worked for me. So just sharing.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right.
You have to start with where your patient is. You know, what is it that they're eating? I have one patient who eats pretty much no vegetables. She will eat a salad. She will eat corn. Um, but this goes back to when she was a teenager and her abusive alcoholic father and the it's a result of long trauma that the whole dinner thing just didn't work for her. So I have to be cognizant of that. And she's very blood deficient. And so I just made a list of things and I said, these are suggestions. You might want, because she's not a vegetarian, but she, has things about her diet that could be better. And we kind of check in, and I don't make too big a deal of it. But I say, I said, these are things that you really should incorporate. And actually, there's one day I did buy her brown rice. I came in, I said, because she also has a lot of digestive issues. She has, what is it? Chronic vomiting syndrome. And, so that plays into that whole thing. And I suggested congee as something that she could make and have, try a tablespoon of congee when you wake up. Start with a tablespoon, like don't have a whole bowl, have a tablespoon. And I said, and see how that sits. So I think it's a process, and you really have to meet the patient where they are. And I did a lecture for some senior citizens in my town, and just sort of an intro to Chinese medicine. And I talked about diet, and I said something about, warm foods are better for your digestive system. And it was like such news to most of them, because, you start with your cold cereal in the morning, and you have your salads, and you have your smoothies. And what I said is, whatever food you put in your body, if it's cold, your body has to warm it up before it starts digesting it. And it was like a light bulb went on in the room. Like, people don't think in Chinese medicine terms. And it was just kind of interesting to see that was such a big game changer, and I gave him a recipe for kachari, and I gave him a recipe for congee. And I said, these are a couple of things that are simple that you can do on your own. And they were going to have me come back last month, but and talk more about food. They said, we want you to do Chinese another lecture, but let's focus on food this time. Like, okay. And I just think it's really key to meet your patients where they are. And, that's been my experience.
Right. Yeah.
Thank you. I will say there's also a certain amount of education that people need, because Anne-Marie, you reminded me that, people, for example, think that corn is a vegetable. But
right.
Corn is not a vegetable.
Right.
Corn is a grain. So people, well, now they also, when you ask them about the vegetables, they will often tell you that they have potatoes. And yes, potato is a root vegetable, granted. But, compare potato to a beet or a carrot, it's another root vegetable. I mean, one can immediately see that there's a bit of discrepancy there.
Right.
So it's just worth kind of like noting that there are, there's a lot of, sometimes just kind of educating them. For example, that beans are not vegetables either, and that they're dried and they've been processed. And the soy milk that you're having, or even the almond milk that you're having, sometimes just saying, do you know how they make them? So they take all these almonds and they boil them to death, and then they take the water, and that's your almond milk. So you think you're actually having almonds, but actually what you're having is something that's incredibly, incredibly processed. So it's just sometimes worth, like just giving a little bit of education that otherwise that people do. The reality is that people are possibly experts in whatever else they do. They might be an expert in making, medieval masks for television. I don't know, whatever it is that That's their field. Their field is not, they just eat because they eat. They go to restaurants, they go to the store, they pick whatever. They never think of themselves as the experts on their health, or
Yeah.
even responsible for their health. So I think part of it is just like, yes, granted, you're not here to get a PhD in nutrition, but you are here because you're experiencing some sort of problem. So I'm here to empower you to become a little bit more discerning.
Right.
And
Yeah, and yes, education I think is huge.
Yeah.
Especially with the whole the coffee is good, coffee is bad. What we hear in the media keeps changing, and how do you make sense of any of that? And the fact that I really don't feel very good physically, and this is what I eat, and just helping people make connections. And I always put it in the terms of suggestions. Why don't you try doing X and see how that makes you feel? And that gives them ownership of what it is they're doing, because I think so much, the Western paradigm is, I will tell you to do this and you will do this. And the way I approach the medicine is it's more of a partnership.
Thank you. Yeah, and that's, coming back to the very first topic about telemedicine. This is a great thing that one can do with telemedicine.
Yeah.
Just have discussions about nutrition.
Yeah.
So it's an opportunity for all of us to.
Yeah.
All right. Anyone else before we close? All right. Well, have a wonderful week.
Thank you, Avi, for doing it. It's really nice.
And I'll be here next Monday at 10 o'clock, whatever time it is on your clock. Enjoy your week.
Share a recipe. I'm a big believer. I will try to share a recipe if people.
Oh, okay.
I will do a recipe. If you like it, do it.
I'll tell you what, Carmela, if you actually send me the recipe by email, I can actually put it on the screen for people.
Okay, because like you said, you said something about potato is not carrot. And so here is what I said to a client. I love potatoes. They look at my face and they push their face into my face. I love potato. And I said, okay, let's see how we can make this potato really good. So I give them a recipe and they come the next week and it's like, oh my God, it was delicious. So I made the potato into a little bit, not just sugar shooting. And so I gave them the recipe. So
we're waiting for the potato recipe next week.
Okay.
All right. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye. I will send you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.